Okay, today on the repair bench I have this giant 16-inch tall, let's call it Batman robot. It's kind of the face it's going for and the emblem on the chest. I haven't gotten any information from the person that sent to me for repair, so all I can do is base it on what I'm seeing. It looks like it's some sort of a concept piece that maybe through the years the whole tin body and locking mechanism was one concept, or maybe even a prototype way back when, and then later came the Batman head thing, because the Batman head, let's get closer so you can see the face. It's not vinyl, this is a hollow cast resin, and they hadn't gone to a great deal of time to smooth things out yet, so that means it was just a concept at that point. But they had to have made a mold from the original sculpt in order to hollow cast this piece in solid resin. The size of the neck on the head, this black ring is a piece that I 3D printed, was much smaller than the hole in the top of the body, and it wouldn't fit, so it was like held in with glue and epoxy and all kinds of things like that. And of course it had come busted loose through the years and took some of the paint off with it. The prototype part of it would be the whole metal frame and gearbox and all that kind of stuff. And this rear door is a good example of that, in that that's not a finished piece type design. That's very very handmade. One of the biggest problems on this particular robot is the battery box is plastic and it's tabbed into the metal frame which supports the arms and the legs and everything else, and then the plastic battery box was supposed to be tabbed into the metal body. So basically everything is hinged in place based on that plastic battery box, which of course was cracked and broken loose, so there wasn't any anything firm holding the mechanics and legs and arms to the body part. And every time you go to jam batteries in the back, you would be pushing on the whole inside the body. Now, obviously this has been hand painted. On the bottoms of the feet here, we can see the roller wheels. Now the wheels themselves on most of these older toys have a definite direction to them. The little slots, the little gear type teeth you see cut in there, are very much like a saw blade, a sawtooth shape. They have a forward and backward direction depending on where the ratchet arm that rests down on top that wheel is. 3 of the 4 were put in backwards, so they couldn't ratchet properly. The axle that holds the wheel in place is a lot like a nail in that it has a round head and then the axle itself. And the idea is that when the axle, or nail head if you will, is put in place, then there's a little piece of metal that bends and pushes on the outside of that nail head. That way the nail head can't move this way, and because it's pushed into the frame as far as it can go that way, it can't go that way, so it's held in place. Well, 3 out of the 4 of those were put in backwards, so those little axles, nail heads, were not being held in place, and one of them had actually worked its way over to where the wasn't in both sides, so the wheel was collapsed in and wasn't going to work. So I had to fix that. Another problem with it was initially the robot, when you had it standing, would be leaning just about to here, and that had to do with the design. The leg linkages weren't bent, and none of the leg linkages were bent down in the heel or up in the body or the main rod that sets the distance. All that stuff was intact. So that means the concept piece or the prototype, whichever way you want to look at it, was never refined. That wasn't quite worked out all the way. I had to make an adjustment to the gearbox where the rear linkage connects in order to pull everything back and get that straightened up more. The insides, which you can't see at this point, had the same red paint on them. So whoever decided to redress this and use whatever this original metal frame was originally for, to reuse it as a new concept. When they painted, they just hosed the whole thing down. I mean, the motor was hosed down with paint, the gears were hosed down, everything was sprayed beyond belief. Okay, so I got the motor running, had to go in and work on the clicker and the light flasher for the chest area. This hull had been cut in from the inside of the body, very rough cut put on, and then the screws are hold this piece here in place, and this Batman emblem is just tabbed on with two small rivets. And like I just stated earlier, this round neck piece I designed, it's like a bobbin, has a upper top and bottom that stick out, and then an inside that's inset. So when the two body halves come together, it can pinch around this upper ring, and there's a lower ring, looks just like it on the inside of the body, that fit the body hole exactly. Then all I had to do was fit the head to the 3D printed ring, which was kind of tough because the neck opening on the head wasn't round. It was all warped and out of place, and being a solid resin, you couldn't flex it or change that. So I actually had to end up heating my 3D printed ring enough to flex to get the head to go through, and then reshape the ring round again to get that on there. What else? Got the motor running. The wiring was atrocious. Fixed the wiring. And let's see if we can get it going here. As you can see, so both arms move the same direction instead of back and forth. There's the light in the chest. The initial idea was that the head would have a light in it too, but because this is a solid cast resin head and these are solid pigment paints painted on there, there isn't going to be any light shining through on this particular one. I think the concept was if it went further into production, then that of course would be a vinyl head, and they could have that lit, because there was in fact a burned out light bulb sticking up inside the head area, even though the head wasn't attached when I received the toy. So there you have it. We don't really know what to call it. We're going to call it Batman because that's what the chest says, but we don't know what to make of its history or lineage or any of that kind of stuff. Was this whole metal part a prototype for some toy that was made but I'm not aware of because it's so huge? Or was it all like a prototype thing, and then someone decided to try to redress it as a Batman so it became a concept piece? I don't know. In any case, it was a lot of work to fix all of the various problems with it and get it going. And it is what it is. We just don't know what that is.